Welcome to another episode of Beyond Physical, where we talk about the mental, emotional, social, and at times spiritual benefits of exercise. We believe that exercise is more than movement, and this podcast is our attempt at sharing that message with the world by sharing our own as well as our guests' experiences and knowledge. If you enjoy it, we ask that you please spread the message by leaving a rating and review, or even better, by sharing with a friend. James Freemantle, founder of FMG Digital. Brew, the first time I actually came across you was when I was like deep in my kind of fitfluencer pursuit, which I've kind of abandoned now. It's more of a visual journal of what I do with exercise. But you had like a pretty hefty following. I think it was north of 100K. Somebody told me about you. It might have been James Fora, who subsequently hired your cousin now. But you were, like that was your thing. It was fitness. And that's how I came across you for the first time before we'd met or interacted in any way. How did that come about?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, thanks for having me, Seb. It's epic to be here. It's been quite a journey, I would say. Really just like a sense of chasing curiosities, really. It's a long story, but in essence, I was at varsity, I was studying marketing, I got into I've always been a fit person, I've always played rugby, cricket, some kind of sport. Really just was in, I got into gym after school because I wasn't really playing, I played a bit of rugby in first year, but, the commitment towards actually taking it seriously versus just messing around. And I was like, okay, time's maybe better spent in the gym, let's focus on, getting the aesthetic a bit. I just did that for a year, and then friends of mine were like, bro, would you consider modeling? Would you consider doing anything with this? And at the time, I'd also been getting really curious about photography, videography. I was watching all the OGs like Christian Guzman and Steve Cook and all the OG YouTubers. And I was like, you know what, let me just put myself out there and see what it's like. Actually, funny enough, because now I'm also working with him in one of his companies, but Iman Gadzi, who's now obviously blown up and done exceptionally well, but at the time he was also in fitness, and we had connected on Instagram, and he was telling me no, personal brand's going to be the thing, and then you had the OG Gary Vee as well, personal branding. So there's just a lot of things pushing me in that direction, and then got into that, and subsequently ended up where I am now. But really just a sense of just following curiosities and things that I enjoy, and letting it kind of put me where I am today. So
How did you figure out how to grow your following?
Yeah.
And also subsequently, since pivoting your personal brand more towards your agency now, have you found any sort of transfer of your brand equity, your personal brand equity from your fitness days to your agency work now?
Sure. So I think also part of the journey also came from a frustration. So I was studying a marketing degree at Stellenbosch, which, good degree, but was getting very frustrated with the lack of the knowledge, how do I put this? A lot of the knowledge was very outdated, and especially in a digital sense, which I've always been curious about. There were definitely holes that I wanted to plug, and I would get sit in lectures and listen to the lecturer speak, and I'd just be it doesn't work like that, or it used to be, but it's not like that anymore. Because I've always had a curiosity, and I always like to question things and find out more. And YouTube's been an amazing form of education for me. But I was just getting frustrated, and I started going down this rabbit hole of what is digital marketing? How can I learn more about it? And we're seeing these guys who are growing accounts, and I just started implementing a lot of the best practice there. So posting valuable content, engaging with other accounts, and funny enough, it actually led me down the path that I'm on now. So a guy actually who owns a brand asset management company in the UK reached out to me, and they were looking for some advice to grow some of the accounts that they were on. So I started doing some consulting for him, which then led me down this whole kind of journey of trying to grow personal brands or brands online through content. And basically let that snowball. Got really cool opportunities to work with Gymshark, Daniel Wellington, some really big brands, which was really cool to kind of see under the hood and how they operate. And then started an agency out of COVID. Was supposed to take a gap year, and obviously that didn't happen. So decided to pivot, try and see, I've got all these skills, let me see how I can use them. So started growing accounts like that. And then eventually started FMG Digital, which is what I run today. So for those of you guys who don't know, it's a paid media company. We work primarily with e-commerce brands, so scaling them up with creative, which is really where I've tied the two worlds of coming from the the personal branding, creative side to more the like hardcore numbers, performance marketing side. And what's also awesome is the industry's moved to that space now where creative is everything when it comes to the performance of the ad. Obviously, offers and unit economics and all that boring stuff, but the creative is really what drives that initial spark that gets that purchase journey going. So yeah, it's been cool to just watch how that whole like journey is unraveled, and how, you know, it's kind of again that journey of kind of pursuing curiosities and seeing where it leads me. And then to your second point about the personal branding, it has shifted a bit. I would say it's something I'm actually kind of dwelling on a lot at the moment and been speaking to my team about. Is like, how do we pivot from being this like, you know, fitness guy to now pushing more on like the business side, and how do we use you know, social media as an engine to get more clients, to potentially launch products in the future, and build a bit of rapport around that aspect. So that is, like, I would say, something I'm still actively working on, but I think the social credibility will always be there, right? People see a number, they see a verification, they see other people that they know following your account, and immediately it gives you that credibility and authority. So yeah, for sure, it's definitely been like a huge player in terms of allowing us to get deals that maybe other agencies wouldn't be able to get, or to be considered when we were still, you know, the little dogs on the block, to now where we are today. So yeah, for sure, it's been like a massive advantage for us.
I think the effort that you've put in towards shifting your personal brand has worked, because I always forget that you used to do fitness stuff. Like, I
Appreciate
forgot that completely. When I was preparing for this episode, I was like, oh yeah, that's literally how I found you originally. The conscious effort to shift that, is that because you feel restricted in your verticals in terms of clients? Like, is there a sort of blueprint around what type of clients you're attracting, and you feel like that has influenced it? Or why are you so conscious of that? Because for me personally, as someone who followed you from then, it's no longer in my
Yeah.
like my sort of paradigm of Jay at all.
No, it's super. I mean, it's great feedback to hear. I think like when you are online, the only time you ever get feedback is when you actually have conversations. Like, that's like very new to me. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily like, obviously, okay, if we are more relevant, like if I'm posting fitness stuff and people are seeing me in the fitness space, then there's definitely that like relevancy with fitness brands, or, you know, maybe they trust me because they see me working or like doing things with other brands. But it's more sense of like, when I was doing more like the fitness-based content, you know, you're getting more people who are coming to you for workouts, or like, obviously, I'm sure like if you've ever posted like fitness stuff, you would have also got your, you know, your odd person or two commenting in the either on the post or in your DMs. So just trying to kind of avoid and move away from that, and really just like be a little bit more intentional. So I think also like LinkedIn has been a great way for me to just kind of like start from scratch and post more around that. And then I'm like slowly trying to find ways to bleed over onto Instagram. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and again, it can also just be like a mental thing, but I think you create these golden handcuffs of like, but wait, everyone knows me as this, like, how do I now, you know, transition over? And you can see how, like, I mean, we were talking about like, you know, vloggers and these like very big YouTubers who, you know, amass millions of followers, or getting millions of views every single day, like a Jake Paul, Logan Paul, any of these guys, KSI, like these kind of OG YouTubers who are like kind of known for their entertainment content. It becomes quite hard to pivot or to change from like what everyone perceives you like as, especially at a certain number. So yeah, I think it's more just like being taken seriously in the business space. You know, you don't want to be the gym bro jock who like people look at and they're like, oh, but like, okay, cool, you got like the 6-pack abs and you do this and this, but like we need help with our business. So I think it's a like fine balance between the two. And I think what's super cool is like, and it's something I'm like trying to figure out now at the moment, and I'm looking to roll it out within the next month. We've actually been working on it internally with the team and then also by myself, but like creating that authentic edge, right? So how do I bring both worlds together? And that's the challenge. It's like, because it hasn't been done before, right? So, or maybe it has, but I'm not aware of it. So, and again, that's the authenticity, which can be scary because you don't know how people respond and you haven't seen it proven before. So like, I think there's an element of that. Maybe it's like imposter syndrome around like, okay, cool, I haven't seen it done before, so would it work? Because no one's done it. But yeah, I think it's something obviously you're always actively working on. And I think the cool thing about a personal brand, but it's also a challenging thing, is that we evolve as people as we go, right? So we change, like whether that's like focal points, whether it's beliefs, whether it's just how we like present ourselves, right? That can change quite a lot over time. And obviously people have come to you for specific things over time. And there's always that but if I post this, maybe I lose that following, which at the end of the day is not important, right? Because that's who you are right now and it's where you're pivoting to go. But I think there's definitely like an ego attachment to it where like, oh, but if I do this, then suddenly this will happen. And you start to think worst case scenario. But yeah, it's definitely been something I've been actively thinking about for a while, especially with like personal branding being important. And I think you feel a bit of like a bit of a hypocrite where like you are like telling these founders like, oh hey, but like, because obviously we just run the ads, but we also come on and we'll give suggestions like, oh, we could actually try this angle and this thing, and as a founder it's really cool to be posting stuff, and I'm like, but I'm not doing it. So it's yeah, it's been a kind of interesting chapter to reflect on and like just be present about, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at with it at the moment.
And in terms of obviously wanting to, because you're selling B2B services and wanting to be taken seriously in the business world, if my memory serving me correctly, you had a very brief stint on Love Island, right? Bro, how has that in any way, I mean, it was so brief, but firstly, what was the thinking behind that? And how in any way has that influenced your business?
Sure. So it's actually a really interesting question. And I've had a few people ask me about it, but so going into it, I think from a personal brand, obviously there was the UK model that like had worked really well. They tried to implement in South Africa, didn't quite go as big as the UK one, not even close. But I know a lot of issues and whatever, but we can unpack that another time. But my thinking going in, and again, it comes down to like, I think the way I've always thought about things is I look at it and I'm like, here's an opportunity to get a crazy amount of reach and impressions and put yourself out there. Obviously, like you can put your best foot forward, and you know, obviously, like the nature of the program can like obviously vary depending on who's on it, and maybe that's why it didn't last too long. I don't know, but it's like no shade at anyone at all, but. So for my thinking going in, I was just kind of like, you know, I've got this understanding of paid ads, I've got this understanding of personal brand, and I'm like, if I were to pay to get that same kind of reach or impressions, this is what it would cost me versus like this opportunity to kind of earn that through being like in the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, the show didn't quite go as big as the UK as I mentioned, but yeah, I mean, it was cool to be on. It definitely gave like a bit of impression. It's like a good conversation starter at a dinner, especially when people find out. So they'll be like, "Oh wait, I think I know you from somewhere. Was it this?" And it's always quite funny. I think I'm speaking for myself here, but I think I was quite good at like kind of protecting my image on the show. I didn't do anything that was kind of offsides or distasteful. So I was okay in that sense. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I've had a client to date bring it up. I think it was also just a different demographic. Like, you know, a lot of our clients obviously, you know, maybe it doesn't ring true to them, but yeah, so that was quite funny. But yeah, for me, it was more just like, I was like, this is a cool opportunity to get a crazy amount of reach and, you know, potentially have kind of a leap pad if it works out, right? There's kind of no net negative as long as you are like controlled in the way you present yourself. So yeah, for me, I just saw it as a great opportunity to get like eyes in front of me and see like, is there a way to potentially use that? I think off the back of it, I was like, well, you know, because I had another company at that time, I was like, it could do really well for that company because it's more social media geared. Or for example, if you want to launch a product or anything off the back of that, a fitness program, whatever it looks like, it's a like crazy way to get a lot of attention and effort to the brand and to the page. But as I mentioned, like a lot of people also ask me, like, did you get all the followers from Love Island? I'm like, no, I don't think I gained any. I think I got like maybe a couple thousand, but it was nothing significant. I'd already grown my following over 100K. And I think that's also like a good thing to touch on is like, I think going back to the whole personal branding thing is like, those numbers have dropped over time, and it's also like obviously being inactive on the platform, maybe not posting the same content that people came for, and just kind of refining that image of what you kind of want and where you're at right now, you know. So.
And from an ego perspective, did you feel affected at all by your following dipping off, or is it kind of inconsequential to you?
I think like for me, it's like I'm like a big believer in asking yourself, like, for example, let's say you got a social media platform. It's like, well, why am I using it, right? Like, what is, like, everything needs to have a reason to some degree, especially from a business perspective. So if I lose followers, why am I losing followers? Like, okay, cool. It's probably because I'm not posting the same content. Do I want to still be doing the same content? No. Okay, cool. Doesn't matter, right? But like, if it's what my business relies on and I maybe post something that like completely just throws a bunch of people off that could have potentially been customers, then obviously I need to like be aware of that and kind of figure out like what's going on there. I'd be lying if I said like it doesn't, like you don't look at it and be like, oh, but you know, at the end of the day, like you still go to bed at the same time, you still wake up at the same time, it doesn't change anything. Like, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's like that whole concept of like 1,000 true fans, right? Like it's obviously great to have a number and it's like cool, whatever, but like it doesn't do anything for me. It's more a sense of like, I'm always looking at like, how can I use that, or like where can it, like how does it actually serve me, right? Instead of stressing. I think there definitely would have been a time when I first started where I would have been like, oh, you know, it's like whatever, I lost this many followers, and you start to go like down a bit of a rabbit hole. But I think it's just being clear, like, you know, why am I using these things? Why, like, does it serve me, or am I the one who's like playing victim to this?
And from the chats that we have at Horizon quite regularly, you know, it sounds like FMG's on the up. You guys are growing, you're hiring, you're building, it's up and to the right, things are looking good. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got slowly your IG following dipping off, nobody raising anything about Love Island client wise, which the two of those things, awareness and exposure, not reconciling to the growth of your business, has me thinking, what is your main acquisition channel for that business? Because it's obviously not really your Instagram, nor is it people just seeing you on TV. I have my kind of thoughts of what they might be, but coming into this, I was really interested to find out from you what that is, what that looks like.
For sure. So funny enough, I did use quite a bit of Instagram at first. So obviously I had as I mentioned, the social credibility. So people seeing the number, seeing the verified, they're like, cool, this guy somewhat knows what he's talking about. Yeah, he's not going to scam me and run away with my money, right? So there was at least some kind of like trust and proof around it. So that worked quite well, just like Instagram DMs, but being different, like, right? Like not just sending the same, hey, I run marketing agency, I can run your ads and blah, blah, blah. It's hey, I noticed this about the way that you guys are doing things. I think this would work better. Can I jump on a call to explain why? You know, like always leading with value. And that's always been a thing. Like, you know, I've tried the whole, like the mass email outreach and like that, but I don't, like, it's never felt right for me. And it's never worked from my side. Like I find it's a lot better if I'm reaching out to brands where I'm genuinely like, I could see myself growing this brand, or at least there's potential to do that. And then, you know, creating something that's actually custom and leading with value, whether it's jumping on a call with them or recording a Loom video, going over, you know, hey, if you guys change this and maybe tweak this, I feel like you would get better performance. Obviously we can do that for you, but you're welcome to implement it. And really just like trying to offer value and help people. I think the key is to also put yourself in the shoes of that business owner. They're probably getting harassed with messages every single day saying the same thing. So when you actually, you know, lead with value and you give them something that helps them, then they're like, oh, like I like that guy because of this, or, you know, I can see that he's actually, you know, helping other people or whatever, based on like if I'm posting results and showing what we're doing. So yeah, I would say that was a big thing. Another thing is always like, for me, I've always been like, I think having a great product makes marketing very easy, which makes sales very easy, right? It's kind of like the whole Simon Sinek start with why. If you can like focus on that core thing, everything else becomes a lot easier. Whereas if your product sucks, your marketing's got to be good. If your marketing sucks, your sales have got to be really good. So I've always kind of focused on product, and it's resulted in slower growth, but it's been more sustainable growth, right? So we've had probably like more than 5 or 6 clients with us for more than like a year and a half, almost 2 years now, out of our 20 clients that we're currently managing, which is really, really good retention for anyone that's been in the service or agency space. Your average is about 3-4 months if you're lucky. So really, really happy about that, and obviously a reflection of the like product that we built and also the customer service that we built around. So that kind of leads into another acquisition, which has also just been a lot of word of mouth. So people just talking about us getting onto like forums, being invited to go speak at things just due to the results that we've, you know, been able to produce. Obviously vocalizing that a little bit on LinkedIn and like creating a little bit of buzz and stir around it and just connecting with the right people. But yeah, I would say like the two things, obviously at the beginning, you don't really have a choice. You've got to go do the outreach and do the nitty gritty, and get your hands dirty. But then the second has just been like really just focusing on the customer, like how can I provide as much value, how can I help their business as much as possible, which will always result in you producing a really great product, which was like, it has almost like, not a guarantee, but like it becomes very easy to know, okay, cool, as long as we do these things and we put the same amount of effort into every client, we'll get them the result that they're after. So
yeah. You're getting more people from cold outreach or from referral.
We haven't run an ad or done any outreach in the last year and a half, and our business is more than doubled since February.
It says a lot
Yeah.
about what you guys are doing. Which
No,
is
for sure,
flipping-
for sure. We had like a bit of a, I would say it was probably over within the last 3 months. We also got really, I mean, also like massive blessing to be able to also speak at like some events, which caused us to actually get a lot of traffic and people to be like, yo, okay, these guys know what they're talking about. You know, let's maybe look at them. So yeah, that was also like a major key. But again, coming down to product conviction in the product, like that whole thing. I know Hormozy talks about it. You can't just like stand there and shout affirmations when you've actually got conviction in what you're doing and you know you're helping people. It like that authenticity comes through of just being able to speak and people know, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about because he's done it, right? You've done the reps, you've proven to do it. Therefore, like there's no like you can't falsify it, you can't like kind of get around it. So yeah, it's like again the word of mouth and also just being given really cool opportunities to speak to the right people that are obviously like looking for something that we can offer.
So given that's how you are attracting customers, how are you like how do you how have you structured your team? What's your hiring roadmap looking like? Because are you yet at the point where you feel like you can justify someone like paying someone full time to be doing outreach if your main acquisition channel at the moment is referrals?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, it's always a double-edged sword, right? The referrals are great because they don't cost you anything and it's a reflection of a great product, but at the same time, it's not scalable, which is quite funny because that's what our business is all about. But I would say, yeah, it's at the moment, like, I've really just been focusing more on product and, like, how can we improve the service of what we do. We're doing fantastically. We've had, like, really, really good months with all of our brands, but it's more a sense of, like, how can we just take it that much further? We're also just gearing up to position the agency slightly different for slightly bigger brands is something that we've got on our horizon. So just like fixing bigger problems, seeing more like how we can add more value with our current setup. The team is quite big at the moment. So back in October, we'll have 9 people on the team, which is quite big for a marketing agency. We're running accounts for 20 clients at the moment. I have kind of capped it. Like I always want to stay quite boutique. I think a lesson I've learned from, I worked for a short stint in an agency and I've had exposure to some bigger agencies when I was at university and doing like work experience, things like that. But, you know, gone are the days of these like 100-person agencies running at 5% margins and like it's just an absolute nightmare. Like no one wants to run a business that size with that much complexity, especially in the agency space where, you know, it's like always feels a bit like, I mean, like something we've done a good job of in terms of setting expectation, but traditionally it's a lot of like, it's like client versus agency the whole time and it's like a wrestle, right? And like if you're doing that with a 100-person agency, you're probably dealing with over 100 clients, it becomes quite an intense system to run. So I've never really been open or interested to that. Like I want to run a small boutique company where I can still be a part of things. I know everyone by name, and we're like more known as like that like company that can supercharge and will get the results, like almost like the hit squad, right? Like your like special forces team. I'd like to look at it like that. So yeah, currently it's we're just kind of keeping things as they are. I'm looking to position things a little bit differently, and then I'm always a big believer in like doing it first and then handing it off to someone.
I'm with you totally as well.
Yeah. It's the best because the problem is like I think and yeah, if you haven't touched a part of the business and you just hand it to someone, and again, I guess it could be a limiting belief, but it's definitely helped me is like just at least understanding the bare bones of how that system or that function works, and then being able to at least hand that to someone and say, okay, I've built it to this point. I expect you to take it this much further. Like I've done 20%, I want you to add the extra 80, but I know that it works. So like follow this like kind of process and procedure. Look for improvements and like build it into your thing, and that's helped a lot. And then having my team members like kind of teach me back and being like, hey, I've created this and I've added this in order to make it better, because that also can be the thing, right? I think as a business owner, and I'm sure you felt it as well, is like when hiring people, there's that like awkward moment of like, you know, I do things this way, and like you kind of, it's hard to just hand it to someone and have faith that they're gonna like execute it. And I think it's definitely a point at which you have to kind of do the training and be present. And then I think it's finally giving them the confidence, which also comes with trust and loyalty, to be able to, and you've got to see the work being done, but then say to them, okay, cool, now it's your baby, like you go grow it. This is now your responsibility. But then having them constantly like teach and kind of give you feedback, so that you know what's going on and what's happening in the space. So yeah, I mean, that process has helped me a lot. In terms of roadmaps for hiring, I think it just comes down to like, understanding the bottlenecks in your business. So like, where are things breaking? Where do we feel like we need, like recently, so we had, with the ads, we've also been handling a lot of like the content creators and like sourcing people to shoot ads for us. And originally we had someone who was like on the operations and customer service handling that, which, bless her, she always puts her hand up to help when we need it. And it's great to have those kind of A players and unicorns that are, the minute that you like, it's like, coach says, hey, who can step in and help? And they like, put their hand up and they're so keen to get going. Like that's really what you want. And you want those kind of people in the company. So having people like that who step up and say, hey, me, like, I'll take it. And Shem, she's a absolute sweetheart about it, and really worked well in terms of like building the core of it. And I worked with her closely to make sure it was kind of what I also feel should be. And then we've just recently hired someone to take that over. So that whole process of like, okay, where's the roadblock? And I think it's very freeing, like, because the business owner, once you start to like bring people on and give them full responsibility of certain areas of the business, you then also have a lot more mobility to then float into the places that you need to fix. So you can either go and do it yourself or bring someone in the team to help you with it a bit, and then eventually find someone who can, handle it when it makes sense. So that's kind of the process that we followed. From a sales perspective, we'll probably look at pushing some stuff next year, and actually properly turn the taps on, because the problem with like, we just have no capacity. Like if I hired another, or if we bought another client, I think my team would kill me. And with the current capacity, like, we're going to keep things smooth until the end of Q4, and then we'll probably look to push again.
What's also quite amazing about either patching or kind of releasing a bottleneck and solving a certain problem, it's kind of like a hose pipe that has a bunch of holes in it, and the tap is on. You plug one of the holes, and then another one becomes a lot more apparent. So when you do either hire for that bottleneck, or you put a system in place, or you just solve the problem, it really makes apparent the next one, which is such a cool thing to see in practice.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you're finding now, having hired some support for this person of yours, where it's like, okay, amazing, like that's taken a bit of the strain off there. We're doing that more effectively. Interesting. What's that problem?
Yeah.
Like that's a lot more right now.
There's a law, I always forget the name of it, but it's basically like when you solve a problem, a new problem arises. And it is just like, but I think that's what like it truly means to be an entrepreneur or businessman, right? Like there's always problems. It's just a case of like putting them in terms of hierarchy, like what needs to be done, like what's urgent, what can wait, what's like a future thing, and then just being efficient at dealing with those. Like that determines the speed at which companies scale, and also their longevity is like the ability to do that and constantly stay on. Like the work is never done, right? But knowing what needs to be focused on and what can wait, and what is actually not necessary, or at least not this doesn't really have that much ROI. But but it's a process, right? At the beginning, I think especially if you've come from, and it's something I had to deal with for a bit, is like coming from a bit of an employee mindset to now running a business. I was like, I've got to do everything. It's my task list, like I'm responsible, to getting to the point where you can just be like, okay, cool, like delegate, like based on who it's for, and have trust that it'll get done.
Also realizing that you're not helping the mission if you're trying to do everything. You're actually leading poorly.
Yeah.
And that happens so often for me, where I'm like, but over the 3 years, I've become so much better at that, where I'm like, my taking this responsibility is detrimental to the mission, because I'm going to do it rubbish. I'm not going to do it well because I'm too spread. It's a low leverage task for me to be doing. There's someone else who would do that exceptionally because they've got the capacity to do it. And having that thing of like, no, you're not being a hero. You're actually doing damage by trying to carry that.
No, you're sinking the ship. It's like so my team, I'd say maybe 2 weeks ago, because I'm very transparent, especially with a few core members of my team that have been a part of the business and take a lot of responsibility and also lead departments of my company. But, I kind of sold this vision to them of what I want the company to be and where we're going, and how we're going to hire and who's going to be for what roles, and did all the bits and pieces, hired all the people, everything's running smoothly, but constantly like putting my foot in it, and sticking my finger basically in the pie and being like, oh, but if we did it this way, and what do you think of this? And like luckily, like I have really good relations with my team, and my creative director called me out and was like, yeah, I need to have a conversation with you. And I'm like, what's up? She goes, you told us all this stuff, and like, I'm happy if you want to come back in. I don't want to take that part of the business away. Like at the end of the day, it's your company, but like, this is the vision you sold us. this is like what I'm expecting as my role, and like I need to know, like, am I redundant? Because, and like not in a sassy way or like aggressive way, but just like to be honest, like, am I redundant? Would you rather have me somewhere else in the business? And like it's made me stop and think, and I'm like,
Jeez, that's
yeah, like,
serious accountability
no,
that she's
huge, and
doing
like,
there.
but what's so cool about it is like, and I think that's what like I love about the culture we built in the company right now is like, there is that sense of like everyone's just trying to do their best. Everyone loves what they do. At least that's what I can see. But there's a sense, and she also gave me the feedback. She said like, you know, I wouldn't be telling you this if I didn't see myself being a part of the business, because I would just like, you know, silent quit and like disappear. You know, like I would rather just say, oh, you know what, and then like finally like get out of it. But she's like very much like, you know, I know the vision, I know what we're doing. It's so cool what's being built. Like I want to tell you this feedback because we can't grow if you're not like focusing on those areas. And I had to like actually look at myself in the mirror and realize that like, a lot of, you know, this next chapter of growing the business, pushing the personal brand, building like FMG into a brand that people actually know, and like they, oh, you know, I've heard of those guys, I've seen the work that they've done, and being a lot more vocal about that is, it's a scary chapter to step in as a business owner. It's something that maybe it's not my strongest competence right now, right? Like I come from a creative strategy background. I'm really good at, not in an arrogant way, but I'm really good at writing ads, coming up with concepts. Like that's my like familiarity, right? My sphere of like comfort. So I realized that part of that was me slipping back into the old patterns of like, this is my sphere of comfort. This is where I get validation, right? And avoiding the hard work of like, ooh, but jumping on like LinkedIn and Instagram and filming, you know, reels and whatever, explaining and doing all those bits and pieces, which is something I haven't touched in a while from the business. So it's, yeah, it's, I think that's the one cool thing about business, which I love, is it's the best form of like self-development, right? It exposes all your weaknesses. It makes you reflect the whole time. You're constantly challenged with all these things that like, you know, awaken parts of you or teach you lessons or show you how to work with other people. Like it's honestly like, yeah, such a blessing. But yeah, I would say I kind of lost track of thought there, a bit of a ramble, but
That's
but
okay.
I think it's all part of building the business, and yeah, I think also like, yeah, the people aspect. I'm sure you felt it now as well, like growing Horizon into a much bigger team and now handling more people. It's like becomes a thing in itself, but it's so rewarding to have people who are also invested in your vision and are building it bigger than you, because as you said, you do become that bottleneck in the business.
The speaking of building the thing and growing the thing, you obviously mentioned wanting to keep your service boutique, at least for the time being, or you know, maintaining that quality, and that requires a very specific understanding of not the kind of clients that you like, but also specifically what the kind of clients you don't like and you want to say no to. What does that client profile look like? How do you determine when not to take a client on
Yeah.
for your business?
Yeah. So how I basically approach a sales call, a discovery call, whatever you want to call it, is I like to approach like a doctor, and I tell the prospect that like I want to basically break down all the numbers, so have an understanding of, okay, cool, how much ad spend is available, what do your unit economics look like on the product, so how much gross profit do we actually have to play with when we take into account cost of goods, taxes, shipping, all the other fees that are associated with getting your product to that customer, and then it becomes a very honest conversation of just a, hey, this is our fee. This is the performance fee that we take in association with that. Or, you know, especially if it's a customer, like, again, we are flexible on it. If there's a customer that I really want to work with and they may be at a slightly earlier stage, then we'll figure out a route forward, right? Like, I think that's the cool thing with business. It's just like, there's definitely like, you can be malleable and you can kind of figure out something to work. And at the end of the day, it becomes a actually cool relationship. Some of our best clients have started like that. But yeah, just being brutally honest, just of this is kind of, you know, where we fall into the ball pit. This is what we can do for you based on what you've been able to do. This is about like the increase that you can expect and what we've been able to do historically. Obviously, there's never a guarantee. Anyone that tells you there's a guarantee is lying to you. But at least based on historical facts, and if we can implement these things, this is what progressive growth should look like. And this is how it's going to actually impact your bottom line. So just being very honest with clients. And, you know, some clients, like, they look at it and they're like, okay, I might be losing money in the first few months just due to like the costs and everything else associated. But I see the value you guys are bringing. I've seen what you've been able to do for these brands, and like, I'm keen to jump on. Other brands, you know, they would crush it, and it takes their profit margin like 2, 3, sometimes even 10x. And they're like, okay, cool, you know what, I'm keen. Like, we want to be a part of this. Let's scale this thing like crazy. So yeah, it's just like honest conversation and really just like breaking down the numbers with them and like saying to them like this is what you can kind of expect and this is what you should know going in. So I just say like it's a transparency thing, which I think, especially from what I've seen in the service space, it's lacking sometimes. Like people, that we can do this for you, and like, but they don't look at the numbers. They don't actually diagnose the issues. It's like, and it's also I think that's also a thing is like just getting an understanding of like what are they actually struggling with. Like are we actually going to be a good fit for them? The same way like I think it works both ways, right? Are they going to be a good fit for us, and are we going to be a good fit for them? And those are the relationships that work really well, as opposed to like thinking, what can I gain from this the whole time, or thinking like, oh, I need to please them, right? But I don't maybe have the thing. I think it's just important, and it becomes easier when you get more clients and you get more confident in the service because you have that conviction and you like have that kind of like a bit woohoo, but like that abundance mindset of knowing, okay, cool, we're doing good things for clients, and like those that want to work with us will work with us, those that don't won't, and it's like simple as that. But obviously at the beginning you're like so desperate to get clients and you're like, oh, I'll make it work and I'll figure it out, and so yeah, it's a hard one to kind of advise on, but yeah, that's how we work at the moment, is just breaking it down and just seeing like, is this actually going to be a positive experience for them, or are they going to like resent us because we haven't been transparent with the thing?
Have you ever found that you've generated, well, that a client has not managed to deal with the demand that you've generated?
Yeah.
In other words, they come to you, you've got this amazing strategy that you're going to implement, you run the campaigns, and then they're just like, whoa, our infrastructure cannot handle this demand.
So we've had it a few times. It actually happened a couple of weeks ago.
That's so funny.
The website crashed for a client. But yeah, it's happened. We also had it last Black Friday as well. Like this one client was so keen to do Black Friday, and then I actually have from 2 clients, but we just scaled like crazy, and they ran out of product before Black Friday, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're not going to do the Black Friday sale anymore," which is actually a blessing because we sold everything at full price. But no, it happens a lot. Like we've, especially with like a few of our supplement brands, we actually had it with I don't know if I can mention the name, but it's a fitness tech brand that we worked with, but they were basically selling here in South Africa, and because the sales did so well, the main distributor of the product now wants to launch here, and they're actually not allowed to sell the product anymore, so it became quite a tricky situation to be involved in.
I think I know who that is.
You probably know it.
Is it wearable?
Yeah, you probably know who it is. But
so why don't you work with the main distributor?
I mean, there's always that.
It was because of you.
Yeah, it's always that possibility. So it causes good and bad things, right? But yeah, like it's always great when that happens, right? I mean, good
That's
and bad,
wild.
like good problem to have, but also can be quite frustrating. Yeah, so, but I mean, yeah, it's a good, it's definitely, I'd rather be there than being stuck with stock and not being able to move it. We actually
should 100% market that.
No, for sure.
We have shut businesses down because
of the ads.
Too much demand.
No, literally, we had a client as well. So they sell luxury bags. They're a wholesaler, and it's all the Polo, Cellini, all these big name brands that comes into South Africa through one supplier called Intersport, or Interbrand, sorry. And so basically they became the biggest wholesalers from Interbrands through like this campaign we ran last year for Black Friday. We more than doubled their year-on-year Black Friday revenue. So we did like over 5 mil for them over that Black Friday period. And because they were like getting so many orders every single day, the guy had to bribe the courier guy, so the drivers who were doing the routes. He said to them, guys, I'm going to give you a Coke and pie if you guys come back and do a second and a third route. So they're basically bribing the delivery guys to come back continuously so that they could get more product out because they were just selling so many. And we actually had to, I think they actually ended up overselling a few things, so we had to like refund a bunch. It was like a bit messy, but it was cool. I mean, it's a good problem to have, like when your strategy is too effective,
Those are excellent use cases. That's the fun. Like, firstly, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Secondly, it's like speaks such volumes for the quality of the service.
Yeah.
Where it's like, let me tell you about how we literally broke the supply chain of this company because there were too many customers.
No, it's very rewarding. Like it's always it's like it's frustrating in the time because you just like you obviously want to keep the things going and you've worked hard to get the campaigns to like stabilize, but in the same breath, you have to laugh and kind of like celebrate a little bit as well. So it's good fun.
Off the back of those use cases, have you brought those kind of questions into your discovery calls where you're like, what's your infrastructure like?
Yeah.
What can you handle? Because
Yeah. So what we're also doing now is also introducing like minimum ad spend so that we are also working with the kind of clientele that are ready for the kind of service that we offer. Otherwise, it can be not irrelevant, but like the beginning stages of like scaling an e-commerce brand, like you maybe don't need to be testing as many ad concepts or be as like intentional with your creative strategy as opposed to just like, kind of firing from the hip a little bit and being a bit of like a cowboy.
Can you disclose that number?
Not yet.
Okay,
we're finalizing some things. But yeah, as I said, we are flexible on it. Like I said, if we see potential, but it won't be a hard stop. But anyways, going back to it, what was I saying? Oh, so with our discovery calls, we'll always like chat to them and just be like, okay, cool. This is kind of, the revenue that we're looking at. If we can, hit the numbers that I think we can hit, and this is how many purchases we have to sell. Do you guys have that kind of stock on hand? And if so, like, when would we sell out by? So it's like important to just have those conversations. And then we also just flag it with clients just to be like, if we do go down this path and things are working well, and we always like, we're very transparent with results and how things are going. Like we share things pretty much at least every second or third day, just like how things are going, so that clients know, so that they also can keep track of, okay, guys, maybe it's time to look at the stock levels because we're running low or whatever. So yeah, it is always like you have to kind of, because you are so responsible for that, like just be transparent with them and share with them. But yeah, it becomes like a big factor in scaling up, especially if we're going into like a performance deal with a client. Is like we also need to know, like, is it going to be worth it for us? Like if we come on board and you only have 100 units, like might not be worth us coming on and selling, right? Whereas like if you're trying to clear 1,000 units or 3,000 units, then we've definitely got like something we could do for you, so.
And what is if there's a moment that you can kind of pinpoint with a specific client as like your biggest client win, what would that be?
I've had different ones for different reasons. So before starting my agency, I was actually working at another agency. This was in 2022, or end of 2021 into 2022. And I had 1 month where I made a client 6 million euros.
Wow.
And that was crazy. It was at like a 20x return on ad spend. It was ballistic. Like it crushed. Like we were working super hard. We were doing like, it was a higher price product, but we were doing LinkedIn, Google, Instagram, Facebook, obviously through Meta ads, and like I don't think we tried anything else. But basically, I'd like advise them to switch a bit of the content. We also like just like got rid of a lot of mess in the account, and then had that crazy like record month, hit like all-time highs. It's the most they'd ever done. They were obviously super happy. But I think being in that position as an employee, I was kind of just looking for a reason and the conviction to be like, okay, cool, I could probably do this myself, like at least to some degree. So I would say that was a very like, there's a watershed moment where I was like, okay, I actually can do this thing. Like I've got the confidence to. So I would say like that was the catalyst that started everything else. Another one that also stood out, it actually was quite a funny story because we worked with them, then they went to another agency and they've just come back because they weren't enjoying that agency. Anyways, I reached out to the founder and they were really struggling. They were doing like $7,000 a month with this online store. It wasn't worth it for them. They were thinking about shutting it down. And
Rand or dollars?
No, rand. So 7,000 rand a month, which is not a lot of sales. And they were just like, we haven't really given it the attention. We're kind of thinking about shutting it down. And I was like, guys, just give me the shot. This was like, I think it was my second brand. Yeah, and put it on me. Coach, I'm in. Give me a shot. So jumped on that brand and we scaled them. Like within a year, they were doing close to R1 million a month, which was like a really, really good case study to be on. Obviously, the brand saw huge growth, and they needed some other stuff that we couldn't do as an agency, so they went to another agency and then came back to us because the business just completely like flatlined. I know we've been working on that actively again to try and scale them up again to that kind of like threshold and beyond going into Q4. So that was like that's always a good one, right? It's the X that wants you back kind of feeling, which is always a good of an ego boost. And then there's also been like some fantastic ones as well, just like being a part of some. We had one as well where the guy who runs the brand has also got he does a full-time 9 to 5, and now he's like at a point where he's like yo, bro, like, I don't know why I'm still working. Like, the business is doing so well, and like, it is something you could now pursue full time. So that's very rewarding. Or like, we've got another client where we were able, through the ad, she was able to get a deal with Fashini Group, and now she's in all the Fashini stores, and she's getting awards, and like, so there's like different things for different reasons, like another client, like she was solo and now she's got a team behind her. Another one's like, she had like kind of this one like small range. She's now got like a huge range that she runs. So it's like everyone has like different stories, which is also cool. And I think like, so one thing I really love about what I do is that like you get to be a part of someone's story in that degree, and you get to be a part of that growth, which is like, obviously the numbers are great, but it's like what that enables like from a further point of view. So yeah.
You've got to put in a lot of effort to grow something and build something, even though it's early days. Like what you have done, you're dedicated to your health and exercise. You like to push yourself. You've done a half Ironman. You've done some hard stuff. So you clearly have that kind of, you cut from that cloth. You have work capacity. But what is it that actually drives you from within? What is the why that pushes you? Because you clearly get a lot of satisfaction from different things within your business. But what would you say, if you could distill it down to a specific thing, is your why?
It's a tough question. I just said there are a lot of things that I enjoy. I think if you'd asked me a couple years ago, I would have had to be like very honest with you and said it was like a validation thing, like trying to just prove a point to myself, and a bit of a chip on the shoulder. But now I would say like, yeah, I think it's more just like, as I mentioned, like just seeing what that growth enables. Like I think just seeing how it impacts others, bringing others up, like that's really, like it makes me feel good, which makes me excited to continue pushing.
What caused the shift from the chip? I know you've gone a bit more into your faith over the last few years. Did that have anything to do with shifting from like a chip on the shoulder mindset to like a people getting, their lives changed mindset, or what caused that? And also maybe what was the chip? Like, how did you get rid of it?
Yeah. So I think it's been a couple of things. I know we've like obviously spoken about it. For context, so like Seb and I actually we first connected, both lost our parents, and we connected over a coffee, which was actually a really cool chat. That stuck with me for a long time. I think a lot of it was like obviously like not to like get into like crazy deep deep convo on it, but I think a lot of it was like I got great parents. My dad, like I loved him to bits, but there was always a sense of like like, okay, you got an 80, why not an 85? And I know it's because he loved me and he pushed me, but I think it developed the sense of like always wanting to improve and do better, and trying to like validate that and like kind of almost prove it to myself, which I worked through quite a bit, just like due to some life events that happened. And I think it was just like letting that go and realizing that like you are enough, and which comes into the faith aspect of like just knowing that you've been created perfectly by this like creator who loves you, and that like we are all loved, and that's all that really matters. Like I think you reflect on a lot and you realize there's a lot more to life than maybe just the chasing the dragon or trying to prove something to someone. I think that's definitely been a huge part of it. And I think the faith aspect has been like probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Like just like choosing to embrace Jesus as my savior, and what's come with that, and the community that's come with that, and the love that's come with that. Like it's been fantastic, and it's like really has, like I've tried running a business by myself, and I've tried running it through faith, and running it through faith is so much better. It's like you feel like you've got a business partner with you all the time. You've got someone to carry the load, which for me has been like, that's been the biggest thing that I've noticed. It's just like when I ran my business and it was me and I was trying to prove something and I thought I was all that, and like had some ego checks along the way, which also pushed me more towards it, thinking I was invincible and I was capable, whatever. But it's just like stressful, and there was always a void, and I was always tired, and like it always, I don't know, it just felt a bit empty. Whereas doing it the second time around, obviously, like with my faith, it came in more recently. It's been like a year and a bit now. I got baptized, and embraced that community and learned a lot more about God and Jesus and basically everything around it. But even just that shift in the last like year and a half has been like huge. I definitely used to feel like always anxious and stressed, and like I was always trying to like make it work. Whereas now I just have a lot more faith. I'm like, I'm gonna do what I can do. I'm gonna put my best foot forward. You know, I'm gonna bring God in on everything, and I'm gonna just pray about things. I'm gonna yeah, just trust that what's meant for me is meant for me. As long as I'm putting in the work and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then it'll all work out. And I think there's like something very freeing about that. Especially as a business owner, when you're generally the one that carries all the burden and all the stress and all the anxiety, to just kind of like let it go. And it sounds easier said than done, but it's yeah, I think it's been like probably, yeah, it is the best decision I've ever made.
It's amazing that you've felt so much support from that in your craft. And I've seen a lot of guys, it's just felt so much like it's coming more into my periphery, because I'm not a religious person. I went to a very religious school for 13 years. I had a lot of exposure to scripture and the parables and lessons, and I always found them very enriching, but I never spiritually resonated with Christianity or any faith for that matter, for whatever reason. I am technically actually baptized, but when I was very small, but it never like jumped out at me. But I shared with some people in the team, because there are a couple of particularly religious people in our team, Christians, that it feels like it's coming closer and closer into my sphere, and I don't know what it is. It seems like it might have to do with the correlation between founding businesses and being a disciple of that faith, or a follower of that faith. Like I'm seeing it just come a lot, like just a lot more, and like just small things, like people putting in their posts, like Nick Bear posting in his thing about like, he said something about running a business with faith and then without on his story recently.
Oh, epic.
And like I know Dan Steinman's very, very connected to his faith. And I look at a lot of his posts and things, but it's just like an interesting note I've had to self of like, it's just more in my sphere.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I don't know what really to make of it, but I'm just like aware of it. But my actual pivot and question was more, like you said, you'd been supported, and obviously founding and running a business is a challenging thing. As a young founder, because you are a young founder, you know, anyone under, I don't know, 35, in my opinion, is a young founder.
I'm glad you said that, because I coach in a community of guys, and a lot of them are like 18, 19, and they refer to me as Unk, because apparently I'm too old. So it's good to hear that I'm still seen as a young founder. I appreciate
Basically a
that.
boomer.
Yeah, pretty much.
No offense to the boomers. No, but what have you found have been some of the biggest challenges you faced in starting and running your business and growing it?
Sure. So I think the beginning is always tough, right? Like I left a very, very good paying job, and I was offered a double when I said I was going to leave. They're like, well, 2 extra salary, whatever, to keep you here. And I was just like, you know, it'll keep me happy for a short time, but I know I want to do this thing. Like I feel like I'm being called, like, or there's something burning inside me that like is trying to get me to go this direction. So yeah, that was like the first few months were tough, right? Like you've saved the 6 months of salary, and you're trying to like run it off it and make sure that everything works, and you're trying to put everything back into the business. So that's always scary. And I think you definitely have moments at the beginning where you're just like, did I do the right thing? Like, am I being an idiot, or am I actually like doing things correctly? And I think again, if I'd had faith at that stage, it would have helped a lot more. But yeah, obviously you go through your stages. And I think also like with this business, so she's not my fiance now, but I've built the whole business while I've been with her, and that obviously has its challenges. I'm sure you can relate as well. It's like, you know, there's the times when you do have to pull the late nights or the early mornings, or you know, you got to take a call while you're on holiday, or whatever it looks like. And I think yeah, it's been a process for both of us. I'm incredibly grateful that she's like so patient and understanding of it all, and very supportive. And I know that there's been times, I think one time we went to Thailand on holiday with my family, and it was like 1 a.m, and I'm there taking sales calls because we were trying to get clients in the US. So it was like yeah, it's like those moments have been tough. Just like to balance, but I think if you have that open line of conversation with your partner, and they can really see what you're trying to do. And I think especially with her, like I've always said to her, like literally since we started dating, I kind of was like, you know, I want to marry you. Like I'm only dating for marriage, especially at that point in my life. And I just said to her, like, this is what I want, and we were both on board. So I think there was always that understanding of like, okay, cool, well, like, you know, he's not just going to get his money and then snub me and move on. You know, I think she was like, we've always had that understanding and that like trust with each other. I would say, yeah, like that. Those are like tough. Family's always tough as well to balance. I think like I mean, my parents, like I love them to bits, but they, they worry and they always just like. I remember even with my mom, she would like send me job listings that she saw, like friends. My friend at Investec is hiring. Are you sure you don't want me to go make a coffee? And I'm like, Mom, like it's fine. Like things are going well. I'm pursuing what I want to be pursuing. And I think when they start to like see that like materialize a little bit more, they get more confident, and I think bringing them in helps a lot.
What
Um,
did they think of the Jag?
yeah, no, they love it. My mom, like at first, was like, "You're being an idiot. Why would you get this?" And then I was like, I took her for a drive, and she's like, "Hey, no, I like this car." So, no, this is good fun. But yeah, again, like when they start to see, like, okay, actually, you're fine. You like supporting yourself. You're building a life. I think they start to realize, like, okay, it's fine. Like things are gonna be okay. But those were challenging.
Interesting. I was not
Yeah.
expecting you to take that angle. I thought
Yeah.
you were going to go more tactical.
No, and then
But
also I
yeah,
think health
that's
health is also one. Like now I'm just thinking like I've gone through stages where obviously like having been like more in like the fitness space and training was everything and just producing content around that to then going the business route of like, okay, the business is all that matters. I'll like put training in when I can. And I've definitely gone through cycles along the journey of like being really good with the fitness and the diet and then being really bad with it. And I think like, yeah, like you do regret those troughs that you almost hit where like, you start to gain a bit of weight, you're maybe not eating as clean, you feel a bit tired, because it also makes it harder for you to show up, right? It makes everything else tougher in business. You don't have as much energy, or you've got limited energy, you put it all towards the business, and then you see your partner at the end of the day, or you try and make time to see friends or family, and you just have no energy, or like if you kind of stop putting the effort in. So I think like that's also been like a major lesson for me. So, and it's all like the key pillars, right? It's the making time for the stuff that really matters, because without that, like nothing else really. Yeah.
I think my mom would probably she would have something to say about my time kind of allocation at the moment. She'd definitely be like, dude, you need to spread things out a little bit more. Like the gym there's too much happening there. Because I think, but early days, that is a big. I don't even think it is a challenge, and for me, I can definitely connect to what you're saying around the familial slash relationship type challenges. But it's challenging because I think for me there's like an element of guilt where I feel like I'm not necessarily pouring as much into those cups that they deserve. Not that it's like, oh, I feel obligated to work. It's like I really want to. I want to put in the hours. I
100%.
love that I get this fire and this drive and it excites me, and it's like, wow, I'm so blessed and fortunate to have something that I would like I would go so far to do, like really to the nth degree. But there's like a guilt factor of, I love these people so much. I love my friends so much. I love my partner, Claire, so much. And I don't pour into those cups as much as maybe I feel like they deserve.
Yeah.
That's what I find challenging.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and I know for the most part they understand, but I also have got like a very acute sense of how limited time is because of having lost my mom.
Yeah.
And like that sometimes is a bit challenging where it's like you've got a certain amount of time with these people. Like you've got to cherish that. You've got to prioritize that. You've got to be smart about how you do that, because that can be gone like that.
100%.
So that I find very challenging. But it doesn't really ever feel like an obligation. For the most part, it does. Sorry, it doesn't. Like just working because I want to work. There's sometimes where it's like, I've just got to do this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I can definitely, like, the big challenges for sure come with your personal life, I think. For me, then also the next thing would be like just tactically managing people. That can be quite emotionally draining.
Very, yeah.
That for me is like the biggest.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, shit, I wish I was just in finance and I had like one admin person and like I was just managing money.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, we've had it as well. Like in the 3 years and a bit we've been running now, it's like, because I think at the end of the day, like you also have to remember, like, I think there's some people, and again, maybe that's why, like, people who are maybe like, I know they have a stat that people who are, more narcissistic or sociopathic, or they like, if that's even a word, but people who are sociopaths, they are able to excel further in business because they like kind of take that human element away, right? But at the end of the day, like you're dealing with people, and every person that comes into your business, whether it's a client or an employee who comes in, taking a shot on you. They've got their own, like, so you've got to first hold that and honor the fact that they're coming to you and saying, hey, for ever, how many years or months they're going to be with you, I'm going to dedicate myself to growing and being a part of this business. So like, you've got to like hold that and honor it first and foremost. But I think the second part is also understanding, like, just as you've got your own life and your own stresses and your own struggles, they've also got those, right? And like, we've had it, like, obviously over the years, people lose family members, people go through breakups, people lose pets. Like, for some people, like dogs or cats can be really close to them. People, go through ruts of their own. People question their decisions, and like, that's also part of the being the business owner. You've got to jump on and regulate that, and you not become a therapist, but you've got to also like be able to see people and just see, like, how are they doing? Like, how can I help them? Where can I like fit in? And I think that's the thing, is like, I think that's where like being a good leader, again, like, I don't think everyone does it, but you have to be incredibly selfless in that process. And I think that's also where maybe also the balancing things also becomes hard, because sometimes when you're doing the work, that's also like the selfishness, right? Of like, this is good for me, I'm doing it. So like, especially when you are managing people and you're trying to also be present for those that matter to you as well outside of business. And then you also like, if you think of everything in contrast and balance, it's like when you're being so selfless in other areas, you also need the selfishness. I don't know if that makes sense, but you need the selfishness of doing what you're passionate about and what you enjoy. And like, for some people, that can also just be spending time alone, or recharging on the things that actually make them feel alive. So it can also be hard, especially like when you are then dealing with people in the business, and then also focusing on when like everything becomes work, right? Because the selflessness that you're having to give is in work, and then the selfishness you need is in work. So then it seems like your whole world is around work, which I don't have an answer for that. It can be really tricky to balance. But I think going into what you were saying, I think like, again, the communication is important. And I think also going through seasons where like, maybe, and I think it comes down to having a good understanding with your partner or your family or whatever. And it's like, I know Naval Ravikant's also very bullish on it, but it's kind of like, they say like, don't be like the gazelle, be like the lion, right? The gazelle is always working, always doing its thing, whereas lions go through like the hunt and then they like enjoy. They hunt and then they enjoy. So it's also like, how can you also create those seasons within your business where maybe you go through a period of, okay, I'm going to work hard, do what I need to do, but then, okay, let me also step back. Let's focus time with the family, with the partner, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's even just time by yourself. Like, maybe you don't get that enough. But yeah, I think that's one thing I've also come to realize more and more, is like how, like right now I've been going through more of a season of like, okay, let me let the system run. I've put the people in place, but like, what can I start thinking about or like moving towards, so that like when I feel like I need to go through another wave of that, I can, so.
I must say, it does feel like such a gift to be able to uh, lead people in a very close way, where you can provide some sort of mentorship or guidance for things that they're facing outside of what it is that you guys are doing together as a team.
Yeah.
But I 100%, one of the things I'm looking most forward to when Horizon grows and, I'm not as frugal as I am, is getting an HR person. Yo, I'm telling you, like, I love my team so much, but that element is one of the heaviest parts of being, I think, an early stage founder. Is like, not the money stress, not the, feeling every customer complaint, it's like being HR. I have a tremendous amount of respect for HR people, because that is like, it's also weird, like boundaries, like where's the boundary? Like, what am I actually, because as a person, I want to help you. I want to hear about what you're going through and to guide you and support you. But then I realize there's also a power dynamic here. I must remember I'm also the boss. So what is and isn't appropriate for me to chime in on, and like that kind of dynamic is kind of weird sometimes.
100%. I mean, like, actually, was helping a friend of mine who also runs an agency, and like they were dealing with a situation where they'd become a little bit too chommy with their team. It was also like a small early founder team, and their team members were like demanding equity in the business and wanting all these things, and it became tough because they were like, well, we've been a part of it, we've been in the trenches with you, we've done the same thing as you, but they'd like almost lost that sense of like authority figure within the business. And it's a very, very like thin line to tread, right? Like, it's very easy to, I think it's like, the people pleasing element also comes in, where you're like,
100%.
I want to be friends. Like, I don't want to be the outsider, right? I want to be part of the team. I want to be like, it's kind of like if you watch The Office, like Michael Scott, it's like constantly trying to be best friends with everyone. It's like everyone has a little Michael Scott in them, and they want to like be the cool boss that everyone likes, right? But I think it's also, as you said, it's important to like create that like clear boundary of like, okay, cool, like I'm here for these things, but like anything outside of that, like that's, you guys can chat about whatever, like it's not my place to come from. But it's hard, like it's hard.
It's not natural.
No.
Especially if your team is of a similar age to you, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I think it's easier if there's a large age gap. Either way. I don't know why. I feel like that would be easier.
Yeah.
Because there's less like natural inclination towards trying to appease your ego and be mates with this person. You know, because that's, and this, you said that entrepreneurship is a really great tool to learn about yourself. I never realized my ego was so prominent until becoming a founder, because I realized that I found, and of course I've improved upon it as time's gone by, but I found how much I struggled with difficult conversations because I wanted to be liked.
Same.
And I didn't want to be the dick. I didn't want to, like, you know.
No, it's tough.
So
it's very tough. But I've also found like one thing that that has also helped a lot is like, I think also you start to realize, like, as a founder, CEO, whatever, like you generally left dealing with the stuff that no one wants to deal with, right? So I think one thing that's helped me a lot, or at least given me opportunity, I think it also comes with like when you are leading well, right, is that when there are things that no one wants to do, you put your hand up and you do it, and you're the one to like take charge on it. And you know, like for example, when we have to, like we had recently like a conversation with the client that came on board, and it just wasn't working. Like we had a way of doing things, they didn't want to follow it, and it was like a lot of tension and back and forth. And I could see a lot of team members were really like annoyed with the client, right? So you know, we jumped on a call, and we basically just were like, I was trying to explain things to them, and the guy's on his phone, and he's like, you know, taking a phone call while we're talking, and you could just see that like he was completely disrespecting us, didn't really have care for what we were trying to tell him or share with them. But like being able to still set the example and show the team, guys, this is how it's done, then there's like, it creates a lot of respect. And I like obviously got good feedback from the team, but it's it gives you those, I think, in those opportunities where things are tough and people see like, oh flip, I wouldn't have maybe done it that way because like I would have got annoyed, or I would have got like irritated, or I might not have been able to have that conversation. It's like sometimes, you know, especially as a good leader, like if you can put your hand up and show like, okay, cool, I'm going to do the thing that needs to be done. It does create like that naturally. Like I think that's also been something that I feel, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe my team doesn't agree, but I think you never know. But I think like one thing that's also allowed to create that clarity in terms of like, okay, you're the leader, but also I can come to you if I'm dealing with something tough, has been that like just showing up at the right times and being like, how I said, having the tough conversations. And you know, sometimes my team has had one or twice had tough conversations, or like we've actually had really good dynamics where I may be coming as good cop, they come in as bad cop, and it works really well. But yeah, I think just like showing up, always being the hardest worker in the team, being there for everyone when they need them. If someone's got a question at 8 p.m., you know, being able to answer it for them and be available to them, they like respect that, because then they feel like you're on their side and you're not against them. Because I think, yeah, I mean, like having worked a little bit of corporate, like I definitely experienced some bosses that were like that, where either they were like never in the office, but then micromanaged everyone from afar, and you know, just like no one liked that. And also vice versa, it's like, you know, maybe bosses that didn't take accountability, and they would just say to team members, oh no, you deal with that, like that's your thing to deal with, but it's not really, you know, or at least not leading with a backbone. So yeah, I mean, all you can do is take lessons, and I'm definitely not perfect. There's probably things that my team, that I do, that might like irritate my team, but I think it is this constant process of, you know, being humble enough to ask for feedback, ask for direction, while still like being the one that, like, if there's a hard conversation needs to be had, you have it. When you need to like stand up for the team, you stand up for the team and protect them, and also tell them the like brutal honest truth sometimes. So it's tough, but it's, you got to do it, you know.
And I mean, like I've said, also we're still so early in the game.
Yeah.
It's there's a long road ahead. I hope. And we have a listener question, which, oh, this is actually a nice question. Okay, which we'll close off on. So, as someone who's balancing both fitness and entrepreneurship, for those who don't know, Jay's doing 75 hard, stay hard, with Max as well. Has he been sticking to it as well?
Yeah, so we both
You guys are locked in.
we today will be 31 or 32 days.
Congrats.
So we've been going strong. We're almost halfway there, so it's been good. We've had a few temptations along the way, but we've said no to the cookies and the dessert. The hardest thing has actually been, I won't get into a tangent, but has been the reading, just because
Really?
it's weird because you don't. It's one of those things like I don't do often, so I don't have like a dedicated time to do it. And I feel like if it's not in the calendar, it's sometimes it's often missed. So like, especially on weekends, like you get up, you go for a long run, you come back, you maybe chill a bit, you do some things, see some friends in the evening, or chill, watch a movie, and then it comes to 10 o'clock or 10:30, and you're like, I haven't done my reading, and then you've got to whip the book out. Or like we went to dinner the other day and got back at like 11:30, and I was like, I haven't done my 10 pages. And then
What's your book?
I actually just finished one. It's called The Richest Man Alive. It's really, I must actually send it to you. It's basically based on Proverbs, so King Solomon's wisdom before his downfall. But it's really good. Like it's from the perspective. Actually, it was one of my friends, Josh, gave it to me as a birthday present. It's from the perspective of a guy who ran a very successful advertising agency. Funny enough, and how he used a lot of the wisdom to go from being like a failed employee, like he'd been fired from 7 jobs, to like basically like a millionaire USD, which is quite impressive. So
Sick.
yeah, it's very cool.
Okay.
Anyway,
So back to the question. As someone who is balancing both fitness and entrepreneurship, what practical routines or habits have you found make the biggest difference when it comes to staying consistent in both areas without burning out?
yeah, for sure. I think the whole, I mean, it's cliche, but it's that whole like, what do I say? It's basically like if you're not going to plan, like you will, it's like this. This is it. Sorry, I hit a blank. But it's like the failing to plan is planning to fail, right? Yes. So I think like structure is incredibly important, which I mean that opens like another whole conversation about like how do you create structure that's still to some degree flexible, so you're not like this guy that like has no social life and you can't actually like connect with other people, find times to like be with other people because your structure is like so rigid. But yeah, I think having like a clear structure and a good understanding of like how important it is to you and also like the degree of that, right? So like what I kind of mean is like, for example, if you're wanting to run and lift weights and also like see friends, you've got to like be quite intentional about how you do it. So, maybe you want to couple in going for a run with a friend, and that's your social time, and get a coffee afterwards, and then maybe gym on another day or gym later in the day. And I think just having a structure or plan. I think also realizing like it's that whole like 80-20 rule, right? It's like you're gonna go through seasons where you can maybe only do 20% of like whatever it is that you want to do, but how can you find a way to rather just be consistent with that 20%? So in most cases, like that might be for people either running or lifting weights. It's like, how can you go to the gym 4 times a week, or at least fit that into your schedule, and be intentional? If you're someone that has to get it done in the morning, then just be disciplined with your bedtime, wake up a little bit earlier, and get your gym in before work, or if you're someone who prefers to go after work, then do it that way. But I think the big thing is just planning. It's like planning and structure. If you're not eating healthy, meal prep your food. Like you might not like eating out of a Tupperware, but the alternative is you might not like be eating as clean, and you're putting on weight and you feel gross or tired during the day. But it really is like, I think health is the biggest investment. I don't think you have to be overboard about it. I don't think you have to, be like David Goggins. Or actually, I found a guy the other day who he's like notorious for training 4 times a day. He wakes up at like 4 and he does judo and boxing and he runs and he lifts weights, and it's crazy. There's a guy called Dan. I'll send you his Instagram after. He's mental, but he's an Australian guy. But anyways, you don't need to be training twice a day or 4 times a day or whatever it looks like. But I think just like it's just being constant. Like almost ask yourself like, what can I do every day, or what are some small things I can do that will make me move towards that goal. So maybe it's like, I remember even when I was because I mean some people might just say, oh, but you're an entrepreneur, you get to decide your day and how you do it. But like even having worked like a 9 to 5, like you just got to be intentional. Like during lunchtime I would go for a walk. I made a friend at work who also had like similar interests to me, and we would just go for a long walk together around Century City where we used to work, and like that was an easy way to get your steps in during the day, and then either going to gym before or after work, and just like making sure that on the way home from I had my gym bag with me, all my clothes are packed. On the way back from work, okay, cool, it's easy, right? It's on the way. I go into the gym, go home, and it's like just like I think, and it's like I know they talk about it a lot in James Clear's book Atomic Habits, but it's like how can you like habit stack or create? I like to think of it as like a Super Mario track, right? Where you got to like follow the track, and then there are all these little things along the way that give you boosters or whatever. But it's like, how can you create almost these like little tracks that then allow you to do the things that you want to do in your day without it feeling like it's effort or like there's friction. But yeah, it comes down to planning. If I had to like summarize that massive tangent into one.
Okay, so planning and also stacking it with things that you already do.
Yeah.
Because I think I find that really helpful as well, and just having a clear understanding of what your priorities are, because that will allow you to continue with the stuff sustainably, because knowing your priorities allows you to pull back on things that are not supporting those priorities.
100%. And I think also to add to that, I think like it's very easy to also fall into a system of, you know, especially if you online a lot and you're following all these like podcasts and all these like health guys, and they're telling you that like, you know, you can't have your coffee 2 hours before, and you need to be doing red light in order to get your mitochondrial production up, and doing this allows for this increase or cognitive whatever. It's just like for a lot of people, like that isn't actually like, just get your sleep in order. Make sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Make sure you're drinking a good amount of water. You're staying relatively active, whether it's even if it's just walking 10K steps a day. Like, look to like just move your body. Like, think of like what are the biggest ROI things, right? Like, actually, there's a guy, his name's Zach something. He posted a video the other day, and he's like, so the guys that are trying to like whatever, considering taking this peptide and this and this and this, he's like, just go for a run. He's like, you know, cardiovascular health improves your longevity by whatever percentage. It's like, just do the small things that have the biggest impact and stop focusing on the little nitty gritty. I think like we can sometimes, and the same as in business, like we sometimes get too focused on like the tactics and the, oh, but if I apply this and I do this way, like I'm going to, you know, it'll result in this. But instead of just thinking like, and I think that's also been a principle that's helped me a lot, is just like going back to fundamentals. Like, what are the fundamentals, right? Like, what rings true across all industries or across like any niche or whatever. It's just like focusing on those big key pillars that you can pull levers, and just ensuring that you do those consistently. Like that's all that really matters.
Do the basics well.
100%.
Stick to the basics. This book I started reading, on the back of it, it's called the Almanac of. No, it's called Poor Charlie's Almanac, Charlie Munger's Wisdom, and on the back of it says, pick a simple idea and take it very seriously. Which I thought was just the coolest thing ever. But Jay, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I really enjoyed it, and I think people will take a lot of insight from it. I know we could have talked for a lot longer, but yeah, it's such a pleasure having you here at the gym and our brief chats day to day. And if people want to find you or get in touch with you guys at FMG, where do they go?
I'd say the best way is probably LinkedIn. You can just search my name, James Freemantle. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram. Reach out to me there. Just tell me that you came through the pod, and then I'll know what reference you have. But yeah, I'd say that's. Otherwise, you can find us. Like, go check our website. You can book a call with us if you are an e-commerce brand looking for someone to scale your business up. Otherwise, come to Horizon and around lunchtime, and you might bump into me. So
awesome. Shot for the plug. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Cheers. Thank you so much for listening to the show, guys. We love answering specific questions. So if there's anything you want to know, leave a comment or reach out to us directly at Horizon ZA on Instagram, or email us at movement@horizongym.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Seb Prentice, and this is Beyond Physical.